Hello and welcome back to my channel MAD Lia. In this video, we will talking about hyperparameters in the Perceptron and how they can affect the performance of the algorithm. In our previous videos, we have already used some of the hyperparameters related to the Perceptron. But what are the hyperparameters? Before we dive in, let's define what hyperparameters are. In machine learning, hyperparameters are the parameters that are set before training the algorithm. They cannot be learned from the data and must be set manually. In the case of the Perceptron, some examples of the hyperparameters are the learning rate, number of epochs, and threshold. If you have watched my previous videos, then you may recall we have used all these three parameters in our previous Perceptron, which are AND gate perceptron with the help of Python, as well as OR gate perceptron or NOT gate perceptron. What is learning rate? The learning rate is the hyperparameter that controls the step size at each iteration while moving towards a minimum of loss function. A small learning rate may result in slow conversions, while a large learning rate may result in overshooting the minimum. So finding the learning rate that is right is crucial for the Perceptron to learn effectively. Let's check this in our previous video program. In our AND gate Perceptron video, we have used the learning rate as 0.1 as well as a 0.5. And based on this learning rate, we have updated our weight. If you see correctly here, then you can observe that for this particular timestamp, our learning rate was 0.5. So due to which our previous weights are 0.1 and 0.8. But after updating the weights, it becomes 0.6, 1.3, which is a difference of 0.5, which occurs due to the learning rate of 0.5. Our next hyperparameter is number of epochs. The number of epochs is a hyperparameter that determines the number of times the Perceptron will see the entire training data. A small number of epochs may result in a underfitting, while a large number of epochs may result in a overfitting. So the number of epochs should be chosen carefully to avoid this problem. Our next hyperparameter is the threshold. The threshold is a hyperparameter that determines the decision boundary of the Perceptron. It is the value that the output of the Perceptron is compared to determine the final classification. A low threshold may result in more false positive, while a high threshold may result in more false negative. So the threshold should be set depending on the problem at hand. At the time of AND gate Perceptron, we have set the threshold value to 1. If our summation value get less than the threshold value, then we return our output as 0 for AND gate, and if the summation value is greater than 1, then we set the output as 1. Here threshold plays a crucial role, so we have to set a threshold very carefully, and we have done it at the time of the designing of AND gate Perceptron. You can check our previous video. So how do we choose the best hyperparameters for our Perceptron? There are various techniques to do so, such as grid search, random search, and Bayesian optimization. Grid search involves trying out all possible combinations of hyperparameters, which can be computationally expensive. Random search involves randomly trying out different combinations of hyperparameters, which is more efficient than grid search, and in our all previous video we have applied this method only. Bayesian optimization uses a prior information to select the most promising hyperparameters to try out search. These are all the hyperparameters. To sum up all, hyperparameters play a crucial role in performance of the Perceptron. The learning rate, number of epochs, and threshold are some examples of hyperparameters that need to be set carefully. Choosing the best hyperparameters can be done using various techniques such as grid search, random search, and Bayesian optimization. And that's it for today's video. I hope you found this information useful. If you found it helpful, please give it thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos on MAD Lia. If you have any question or doubts, feel free to comment down below. We will meet in the next video.